in chemistry. My mom wanted to be a school teacher, but she never finished university. She wanted to be the nice lady that meets you and puts you in the doctor's office. And then my dad worked for the telephone company. But growing up, my favorite question was always why. I wanted to know the end. But if I asked my dad a question, I got some kind of answer that didn't sound quite right, so I always went to my mom. So it was my mom that, my mom had truly told me that, you know, why the ocean was blue or why the sky was blue. My dad said they reflected off of one another. I'm going to go ask mom. So, I did my degree at UVic. I did it under the co-op education program, and that was probably the best decision I ever made. So the reason it was the best thing I've ever done is it allowed me to explore all these different opportunities, because it took me 5 years to do my degree, but I graduated with 2 to 2.5 years of work experience in chemistry. So I got to go and have jobs for 4 months at a time that I was in a lab, I was playing with chemicals and doing things, and quickly discovered that was not for me. Then I got another job working up the oil sands up in northern Alberta, again in the lab, but in heavy industry. I was like, okay, don't really like the lab thing, kind of like the heavy equipment, and that's kind of cool. You can actually see stuff happening right in front of you. So that's kind of how I got into mining. I worked for a company, or a division of Teck as my first job. It was called CECL, Chemical Engineering Services, and they ran a research project where you can extract copper directly from the ore from the ground and refine it into pure copper sheets right on site. Like our pilot plant was like the size of this room, and we would produce 50 kilos of copper a day out of a plant that would fit in this space. So I worked there for many years, and then I started as an operator, shoveling things, pushing burners, unplugging pumps and lines. I got to learn a lot of mechanical skills there, which was fantastic. So I can now fix anything in my house, wire plugs, you name it. I needed a new challenge after a while, after being a shift boss and a plant manager. So I took an opportunity at Trail and I loved the area and never left. So now I am basically the process manager for the electronics recycling program at Teck. I do everything from negotiations, going to trade shows with the display that you may have seen in the other room, talking to clients, working with their legal department to make contracts, designing these brochures. And one of my more recent projects was this little clip I'm going to show you here on the Olympic medals.
You guys can stand up on the edges if you want to.
Yeah, stand up.
They are deep symbols of Olympic excellence. The medals. For the past 2 years, a team of engineers and artists have been racing to complete them in time for their debut. For Dan Mallett, a Canadian Olympian who found himself bound for the 1988 Calgary Games, a medal would have been the ultimate prize. A biathlete who had trained hard, but just months before the Games, his hopes of ever winning were dashed.
I tore an Achilles tendon in my right leg. I never really got back to the form I needed.
Dan may have missed out on his Olympic dream 2 decades ago, but today he controls more 2010 medals than any other person on this planet.
That's irony. I wake up happy every morning.
You see, Dan the Olympian is now Dan the Olympic Project Manager for the Royal Canadian Mint. He's in charge of making sure that medals get manufactured and delivered on time.
Wow. Those will be the largest medals in history. They're going to be the heaviest. The first medals that are not flat. They're undulating surface. Every one is unique.
The waves in the medals are symbolic of the rolling ocean, Canada's mountains, and drifting snow. But it's what you can't see inside the medals that may be their unique feature. Each one contains recycled metal. And from where might surprise you. The DNA for the shiny new 2010 medals can be traced here. Just outside Trail, BC, at Teck Cominco's e-waste recovery plant.
E-waste is electronics that have reached the end of their useful life, either through physical limitations or because of obsolescence.
Things like computers and televisions, if they don't end up here, they'll end up in a landfill. Few people realize that buried deep inside the circuit boards of all this e-waste is the stuff Olympic medals are made from.
You can see some copper here, and then there's silver and gold in some of the pin connections and the soldering.
Teck Cominco calls it an urban mine, and the perfect place to find at least a portion of the raw materials needed to make the Olympic medals.
Recycling is a way to move it back into the system and, extend the life of our natural resources by using what we have already mined once.
After the plastics, glass, and electronics are separated, the valuable circuit boards are bundled up and sent to the world's most sophisticated e-waste separator. That's in Belgium. Here, gold, silver, and copper are turned to liquid, and they're extracted. This gold is heading straight to the Royal Canadian Mint. It will soon become part of the 2010 medals under Dan Mallett's watchful eye.
We want this medal to represent.
So that was one of my projects over the last year and a half. I actually got to physically fold the gold, and came back. It was a little tiny jar.